So we'll try this again. Apologies if you caught a little bit of the first attempt. I will delete that off the internet, not because I am particularly ashamed of it, just because it is rubbish. So hopefully when you all get back in, you'll be able to see the fact that we are starting the stream soon. A little delayed after a chaotic start to the morning and a chaotic start to the streaming. We're still chucking frames. Welcome back. We are still chucking frames and still being erratic, so I apologize. I'm just trying to see if this will settle itself out. But no, my apologies all. It's something that I thought I had all figured out, but clearly have not. Alright, we are stable TM. We will see how we do. Right, I have deleted the previous stream because it was rubbish. This one is rubbish too. Hopefully. So yeah, my apologies all. We are undergoing ongoing severe tech challenges. But I think that might stabilize. No, maybe. Told everyone to get off the internet. No. Right. So, plans for today. We're going to do this. Someone in the previous comments last week when I asked for suggestions wanted the biggest Hildy, as I showed off in the previous deleted stream that lasted all of about 5 minutes. Yeah, it's a nice, lovely, nice Hildy, so we'll have a look at that later in the week, but not today. And yeah, there's another lovely Hildy I found in one of those boxes. It's the classic, some of the best fossils you'll find are in storage boxes, normally in museums, but occasionally in someone's shed. So that's nice, but yeah, we'll be playing with this thing. It's one of the DAC relatives, just out of a box from Ravenscar. I have an awful lot of boxes from Ravenscar that I need to start working through, and yeah, I think it's probably a Paranoceros, but we'll see when we prep it. And apologies to all who have heard this multiple times now, but we will hopefully be stable. And Katie, you can wait for the Hildy. That'll be later in the week. I don't want to rush it today, and as you have seen the chaos that we have had already this morning or this early this afternoon, we'll be back to it. Do not worry. I love a Hildy, so we will be back to it. This time we are looking good with the stream, yeah, so we will try it. Maybe it's just it doesn't like classical music today, but yeah, I'd love to know why one stream works better than the other for whatever reason. We are where we are. Alright. Prepping time. Enough yapping, because the yapping has been going for far too long now. So yeah, let's crack on. Let's go do some fossil stuff. Sorry, just one of those classically incredibly tough nodules, so I'm just switching over to a chisel tip. Sorry for the delay again. But I hope everyone had a good weekend. Check in what you got up to, especially if you got any cool fossils. I know Katie has plenty to talk about if she wants to, but I will be back to prepping. Sorry, brief interlude whilst I quickly remind myself that I need to keep sharing the fundraising thing that people should always see and get very fed up of seeing, is my fundraising for the marathon. And so I just need to try and find if I can share that. How do I share that? See, this is something that, as demonstrated, I need to see if I can copy that link, and then you all get subjected to the fact that I am horrifically unfit, and you'll hear a lot about my training as I go. And I need to add a profile picture and all the other bits and pieces. But you can have a read about what I'm about to put myself through for the National Trust in the UK, or at least in England and Wales. I don't know if they technically cover Northern Ireland. Scotland have their own. But yeah, started running again today after far too many years, and oh god, I did not enjoy it. I am very unfit. So yeah. If anyone has some money and willing to donate, greatly appreciated, but at the same time, do not feel obliged. This is a charitable thing, and I do not expect everyone to have the same ability nor will, but if you can donate or share it, or even just keep it in mind that when I have some giveaways and things coming up, that'll be helping generate funds to share those as well. That would all be greatly appreciated. But, yeah, sorry for the shameless plug. Where are we at? Still none the wiser. Still not 100% sure it's a DAC. One of those that as you prep it, every single one of the ribs pops off. So it's a bit tricky to say for sure. I believe we should have mouth border on this side, and I believe it should whirl this way. But I think we're going to be missing at least parts of it. I mean, you can see a worn section here, so yeah, we're definitely missing parts of it. But I think it should whirl that way around. And this bit may not be mouth border. A bit tough to say when you get them like this, but we'll see what we can do. Yeah. And if anyone sees any typos or anything in the the London Marathon thing, also greatly appreciated. It turns out not competent at anything I do. not afraid to find errors and correct them down the line. So better to catch that early. So, thank you for listening and looking, and I'll be back to prepping. And that seems very worrying. Section just broke off, and there's no whorls inside of it, which is odd. We will just prep down just to check if there's a middle here. Sometimes you do just get single, effectively body chambers, but it's unusual for the DACs or their relatives to just be a single chamber. But we'll see. I would say thank you very much, Shirley. Please don't stress if you can't donate yourself. If you can, great. If not, please don't worry. I do appreciate everyone sharing it. You will get fed up with me posting it over the next 6 months, I am sure. But it is, yeah, something I'm going to try and do it properly. The furthest I've ever run before is a half marathon, and that was not pretty nor fast. This time round, based on today's run, it will not be pretty nor fast either. But just bought myself some proper running shoes, and part of why this morning was being a bit chaotic. So we'll get out and about and yeah, hopefully raise some funds for National Trust. If you like your Yorkshire fossils, you've probably been on the site, which has got National Trust holdings. That's basically Port Mulgrave, Ravenscar, Boggle Hole, the Saltwick Nab, which is if you drop down on the beach on Saltwick, all of the headland to the left, where the old quarry, the big quarry used to be. All of that is National Trust. So yeah, it's a big deal up here, and then obviously South Coast, basically the entire section from Lyme Regis all the way across the fossiliferous sections of that section of coast. Pretty much all National Trusts and bits of Isle of Wight, etc., etc. So yeah, if you like your fossils in England, National Trusts probably own some of the land that you've been collecting on or have had to walk through to get to it. So yeah, I think it's appropriate, and obviously that's not covering all the rest of the sites that they manage and look after, all the historical ones. So yeah, as obviously some of you already know, based on the fact you're National Trust members. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. And yeah, you'll get fed up with my updates as I run increasingly large distances and hopefully get better at it, because I am not good at it now. Big thank you, Katie, for the donation as well. It is greatly appreciated, especially when I get pestered by National Trust going, you know that the first donation always helps speed up the rest, so thank you very much. It is appreciated. Yeah, slowly getting there. Annoying about this outer world being a bit of a mangled mess. Hopefully it will be a nice little one, and then decisions to be made about what to do with this outer bit, or whether to even just like leave it as a kind of like a little cradle. Cut this bit across here. I don't like fiddling with my fossils too much, but it's already a bit of a mess, so we'll see. And it's a bust. So it's got a weird calcite sheet again, not dissimilar to what the Hildies tend to get. As you get to the middle, there's a sort of a second skin that ran all the way around here. Unfortunately, there is nothing under it, and so that's done. But yeah, been a bad run of ammonites, it must be said. A lot of that is also down to the fact I keep picking them from stupid places like Ravenscar, which have a habit of not being complete. So I am aware of why, but eventually we'll get another good one, and that is the reality for a lot of fossils. Is yeah, they're not all good, and that's part of why they're so much fun. Is you just never know what you're gonna get. But yeah, it is a bust. Let's see what else we got. Too many things. Alright. Out of my Horsker box. Looks fat and chunky, but it's tough to say if that's actually a big one or if it's just been eroded on an angle, because it doesn't look so big on this side. But we'll see. Yeah, we'll have a look see at this one. So yeah, as you were saying there, it's definitely one of those funky coloured ones. I actually quite like looking for these, especially at places like Port. If you look for the ones that are a much lighter colour, they often have ammonites in them. They've just been rattling around a long time. And so yeah, it's got that lovely light colour, but the inside's that interesting dark. It's got some spines on it, so we have narrowed it down to probably one of the cat or Baronoceros species. That's what each of these just these little bits poking up is. They're not particularly big, so I'm wondering if it is a cat. That should be cool, because I do not have many cats from outside of Ravenscar, and tends to help have a bit more diversity for the species, because I think nearly all the ones I have from Ravenscar are the Dumortieri species of cat, but we'll have to see, because it could also be one of the big deep body Paranoceros species, Subomartum and Paramartum Paranoceros, but we'll get there. Right, what have I missed? Yeah, Jason having fun with creationism. Yeah, that's an ongoing and increasing issue both in the US and surprisingly England, actually. We've got an increase in both young and old old Earth creationists, which I know sounds a bit nonsensical to say an old Earth creationist, but you know, people who are not a huge fan of evolution in any of its forms, or people who are quite happy with microevolution but not macroevolution, and all of those quirks of it. Yeah, but, there's a level of you can educate people, but there's only so much you can do to help, and sometimes for your own sanity, it's best to sort of wipe your hands and say thank you very much for your time. Interesting to hear your point of view, and just move on, because yeah, you'll never convince everyone, and they're sometimes better. Yeah, unfortunately that's not strictly true. People, as I said, it's rising in number here and stateside. Turns out if you get enough money from enough people thrown at schools that are not government led, then eventually you will get numbers. That's how it worked. But yeah, it's interesting, especially when you consider the Roman Catholic Church are all evolutionary, I would say believers, but yeah, they accept evolution as valid fact. But yeah, a lot of people don't. You can but educate and try and debate in good faith, and then I think also just pick your battles. You can say, here's the information, here's the evidence, and let them do what they want to do. And sometimes they just come back and say, I believe that small changes happen, microevolution, but then it's impossible to make new species. And a lot of that is just a complete misunderstanding of how much time is needed and how much time there is. And it turns out if you give someone 1,000,000 years, or gave 1,000,000 years, an awful lot of change can happen. But yeah, I say feel free to. Oh, actually, I don't know if you can post a link. I have no issue with you posting links to your stuff if you want, Jason, if you can. But I don't know if you are able to with my settings. So if you can't, my apologies. But feel free to just link or put your exact name of your platforms. If it is just J&A Fossils, feel free to just retype that in. Yeah, I'd say in general I don't mind self-promotion within reason, as long as it's linked to what we're doing in fossil stuff. Yeah, quite okay. I could be really mean and say, now that costs you one donation to the marathon fundraiser, but no, I'm not that fast. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because obviously you hunt in far different locations than I for a lot of your material, so it'll be good for people to have a look, see at some other places around the UK, and I do not mind. Although next time you also need to make sure that we leave the GoPro on when we're having a paddle at Ravenscar, because I'm still sad that we didn't get to see the dolphin on the video, because that was fabulous to see. Well, Spot the Fossil is sadly very good for catching people's attention. Can you find the random little fossil? And you guys have all got it figured out. Have some fun with your chit chat. I'm glad to see that it's going to take some effort to explain everything to everyone, Jason. Good luck to you. So there's two things that Jason's thrown out here that make me look like I've not done a great job. One is that he said that I told him to turn off the camera, which is true. I will accept that I did tell him to turn off the camera because I thought the battery was going to die on my GoPro. And sadly, that's when the dolphin appeared. And sadly, it disappeared shortly thereafter and we did not get it in shot. Second, I didn't actually abandon him on the beach at Ravenscar. I just paddled to the first bay from the second bay and he walked. So it may look like that, but but actually, I was limping pretty badly at that point. That was a couple of days after I'd fallen at Port Mulgrave and was not enjoying being on my feet. And the kayak was a very pleasant a very pleasant change from walking around, because you got some nice cold water on your feet, especially when we had to try and push the boat off, or the kayak off the shore, and you got to paddle in the water up to sort of knee deep. It was lovely and refreshing for my foot, and really nice. But yeah, I did not fully abandon him. Although maybe next time I should see if I can abandon him for the seals with all of this. No, I need him to help paddle back. It was really helpful paddling. And someone who was far braver around the seals than I when they kept splashing behind us, because there was one that didn't appreciate us being nearby, even though we were still like 100 meters from where they pull out. There was a couple of them that just decided to follow us and do little fluke splashes. No, there was plenty of room. We did not collect that many fossils. The biggest fossil that came off the beach that day is it was the giant Dremel block that is this one that's got the other parts still to be glued back on. That was the biggest block that came off Ravenscar Beach that day, with us at least. And are there any small islands? Not to my knowledge, actually. There are some further south towards Flamborough Head, I believe. There's a few little what's the correct geographical term? But the rocky outcrops rather than yeah, some rocky outcrops rather than proper islands. And there's some caves and things that can be explored amongst them, but for the most part, no, there's nothing paddleable, at least in Yorkshire area, that you can take the kayak to. That being said, there's a few locations that Jason, if he's feeling keen, but also I'd like to go with some people who have some experience in some of the locations, because there's a few I've never been to before, because the tides are a bit tricky. And so, yeah, hoping to drag someone else out on the kayak and go to explore some of these locations that are a bit tricky to get to, and then can start taking some of my mates with me as well. Yeah, and then you can always set the kayak other places. So yeah, it'd be fun to go down to do some London clay stuff down with the kayak. So Jason, not to be unfair to him, was what we would consider a useful idiot, as he was with me a big idiot when it comes to trying out some of these paddling things. So yeah, it was very useful to have someone willing to come have an adventure, for better or worse, and it turned out it was a great idea, and it worked really well, and yeah, Jason was really helpful to have with. There are plenty of people who may have had more brains and be like, no chance in hell am I getting on that kayak with you, but I do appreciate his willingness to come have the adventure. Because there's a lot of times that I look at it and went, well, that was potentially silly, but no, it was well planned, and thankfully the weather didn't do anything inappropriate or change drastically, and we timed it perfectly, and we got everything right, and that's what we like, is when all the plans come together and fun was had by all. Oh, perfect. Why is my fossil not in shot? Sorry, it's still going. Still working. It's taking a long time to get down. Looking increasingly paranocerous-y with all of these loops and nodes as we come down. But still very intrigued by how fat it appears here. Maybe it's just because it's a reasonably good sized one. But yeah, we'll keep going with it. And I would agree. I don't think our lives were ever in danger. No, I think we picked the perfect day for it. It was flat calm when we went out, and we got back, or we started paddling back when the wind was picking up, and we got back. Perfect time. I'd say it was a perfectly good day, and I don't think there was any real risk, and both of us could swim, and I don't think the seals would have had too many concerns if they'd seen us in the water. They would have probably had a good chuckle to themselves, but no, I think we were absolutely fine. It's one of those things where planning does pay off. Yeah, I do have a drone. I did not get it up that day. There was a level of what are the priorities for the day, and the level of the priority for the day was testing whether the kayak worked, getting to and from Ravenscar alive, and finding some fossils. I did try and convince Liam to come out and do Boggle Hole, and he has a drone as well, and so I was hoping he would come out and have a fly of the drone, and he could catch us on the way out or back in. And yeah, there will be footage of the kayak at some point. It just is going to take a little bit of time to figure out how to do everything at once. It's yeah, a bit too much, at least for the initial stages, whilst we're figuring it all out. And once it becomes more commonly used and more comfortable for us, we most certainly will be getting getting some drone footage out and doing it properly. And I suspect I might take it out. Has anyone studied the growth rings on these shells to guess the age of the fossils? Probably is the easy answer, because the suture lines are basically growth things. So you basically know how, well, I wouldn't say how old, but how many chambers have been added. And so I suspect someone has done it. The big question would be whether or not there's a way to ascribe a given age to the number of chambers, and you'd have to do it based on modern nautiluses, and whether that's a valid assumption, that would be probably a better question, and I don't know. I'm sure someone has tried, but I couldn't give you a definitive answer on it. You could probably have a Google of how old our Nautilus is and see if there's any papers around that, and that will probably be as good as you're going to get, at least without some really well-defined stratigraphic data that might give you an indication about how old some of these things are, but I doubt it. Yeah, sorry to give you homework. Yeah, it'll probably fall under what we'd call the phylogenetic bracketing principle, and in theory, it's the best we can do with what we have that lives today. And so we basically pick the two nearest relatives on either side of the family tree from the animal that we're interested in, and see what these two animals have as similarities or differences when it comes to whatever your specific question is. It's often used for like muscles and muscle attachments, but it could be used for pretty much anything. And so you could basically play the game of how quickly do nautiluses and all of their living relatives add layers or add chambers to their shells, and you basically have to get the ones on each side of nautiluses and ammonites, which I have no idea what the next one would be. One of the other squiddy creatures, I suspect. Maybe even cuttlefish, that sort of thing. And then yeah, I have no idea how you could do it definitively. you'd end up with some level of one's going at some rate, the other's going at some other rate, and there's a good chance that the ammonites are somewhere in the middle, or somewhere between the two, whether they're directly in the middle or closer to one or other. It's but that's kind of how it works. A bit like saying if you've got a gorilla and a human, and you split the difference, what are you likely to end up with? And it's kind of, you'd look at a chimp, and it turns out that chimps are probably a bit of both, and you'd kind of pick. You'd find out that if you looked at just at a gorilla and just a human, you'd find out from that animal what's it look like, and you probably end up with something close to a chimp. Kind of the idea. Not perfect, but kind of the idea. Interestingly, your current Pacific says 4 to 36 years. That's probably the range of things that they have for living cephalopods. So cephalopods being the squids and octopuses and nautiloids. And so yeah, some of those probably have that sort of age range, and that's probably what they're working with. Annoyingly, it does not have a middle, or at least not a good middle. So I've kind of shaped it to match something that should be close, but I've started finding bits of shell scattered through the matrix that it's pulling apart. It ends here. There's a little bit of sort of calcite that appears again here, and a bit of shell here that's in the right place, but then it disappears again. But this section is nothing, and no good shell here, and then yeah, that disappears again. Very frustrating, but at least it's not a Ravenscar one that's like it, it's a Horsker one. So. Hey ho. But I think that will finish us off for today. I will have to have a look, see in regards to your question about ammonite ages, and see if I can give you a better answer for hopefully tomorrow when I'm back on. If it's not tomorrow, I'll be back on Wednesday. With regards to Jason's statement, I wonder if you could do original or aragonite and see seasonal changes. Possibly the challenge with a lot of isotopic stuff is assuming that it's happening at a constant rate throughout the animal's life, and also assuming that it's a seasonal thing and not a yearly thing, or even something altogether different, like every 2 years or every whatever. So it's a bit tough to know. But yeah, so Jason, sorry you just caught up. It's about as good as it's going to get. There's no complete middle. It's a bit scrappy. It needs a bit of a tidy up, but yeah, sadly no middle. We will do our best we can to make it look presentable at some point, but yeah, it's not going to get any better than that. And so that's the plan, is to end stream here. Big thank you to everyone for watching. Big thank you for everyone who's had a look at the marathon page, and Katie for donating. Much appreciated. As I said, aiming to be back tomorrow. We will see if I am, but I will try to be back at somewhere between 1 and 1:30 British summertime, but we will endeavour to be there, and if not, we'll be back on Wednesday. But yeah, as always, thanks everyone for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.